WrestleMania 9. Yeah, Caesar's Palace, 1993. And this was... A lot of people say that this is the worst WrestleMania there is. Well, one of the worst WrestleManias there is. I tend to disagree. There are worse. This WrestleMania, of course, was my first WrestleMania, so watching it, it does have one of the fucking stupidest endings I can think of, but yeah, we'll get to that. So WrestleMania 9 was the dark match, which of course nobody saw. I'm probably sure it's in a DVD, if there is one that would show it. But it was Tito Santana versus Papa Shango, and surprisingly, Tito Santana beat Papa Shango in this one. You know, first of all, you get Shawn Michaels beat him last year. So this, to me, was really interesting just to see how Papa Shango, the guy that more or less made his debut last year at WrestleMania 8, gets his ass kicked in WrestleMania 9 by Tito Santana. Then we get to the WrestleMania 9 itself. You got Tatanka versus Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship. Now these guys had a feud. They had probably 2 matches on Superstars. And of course, Shawn Michaels won them all. You know, and that kind of really pissed me off. Just because, you know, Tatanka, they say that there are certain wrestlers that don't need the WWF Championship or the WWE Championship. They just are, you know, they just have that personality. They just have everything. They just have that one specific thing that you don't need to put a title on them or anything. But in this case, I think Tatanka should have at least won one of those matches, just so at WrestleMania 9, you would have seen Shawn Michaels retain. But no, Shawn Michaels was the champion. Now, in this case, Tatanka did win the match, but it was via countout, which is fucking stupid. So, yeah, Tatanka won the match, but there wasn't really anything in it for him. Then we got a tag team match. The Steiner Brothers, who were WCW guys, coming to WWF, and I remember their promos and everything else. They came, and then it was... No, they were just really cool, just to see. I thought they were young guys, but they were pretty much in their 30s at that time. But anyways, they defeated the Headshrinkers, Samu and Fatu with Alpha. These guys being of the famous Simone family. And when you know it, the man that actually had himself famous in the late 90s was Rikishi. Well, actually, early 2000s was Rikishi. I did think that Samu was Rosie for some reason, but that wasn't the case. It was actually Umaga. But, no, actually, no, I thought it was Jamal. Well, whatever the case, Rikishi Fatu was the famous guy, you know, and Alpha being, of course, the grandfather of Roman Reigns. But this match was good. It went to the Steiner Brothers. And, yeah, a good tag team match. Then we had Doink the Clown versus Crush. Now, this was the year that Monday Night Raw made its debut in the WWF in January. And in one of the episodes, he had, and I remember this too, Doink the Clown and Crush. And what happened was, Doink the Clown was gonna offer his hand for a handshake or whatever. What ended up happening was Crush turned his back and Doink beat him to a bloody pulp. Not a bloody pulp, but you know what I mean. He beat him half to death with the fucking arm. And I remember this was a long segment. It was almost like the one with Shawn Michaels and Owen Hart. I remember flicking through the channels, and I'm not sure how fast I was going. But when I got back to the channel of wrestling that I was watching, I saw they were still tending to Crush, who was beaten by the arm of Doink the Clown. The fake arm, if you will. But they had this match, and of course, the other Doink came into the ring and distracted Crush, and then the Doink, the original Doink, somehow beat him up. And I just realized now as I say his name, it's silly. But anyways, yeah, after that match, the two Doinks faced each other and did the whole mirror hand situation thing. There it is. Okay, so then we had Razor Ramon, who defeated Bob Backlund. And Bob Backlund made his return to the WWF in 92, late 92. And, yeah, and so this was a good match. Bob Backlund being a legend, being the WWF champion. There was that infamous match with Iron Sheik where Arnold skull and threw out the towel and caused Backlund to lose to the Sheik. And this was a good match too. I think Razor Ramon made his debut. Well, he made his debut earlier, and well, yeah, it was a few months earlier, costing Ric Flair to win the WWF title from Macho Man, who beat Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8. But then, of course, Ric Flair would lose the belt to Bret Hart. But I'll get to that match later on. Razor Ramon beat Bob Backlund. Then we get to the WWF Tag Team Championship match. Money Inc. versus the Mega-Maniacs, which was Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake with Jimmy Hart. I say I'll flack with Hogan because, let's face it, he was the Triple H of his time. If he didn't get the main event, holy shit. You know, whether this guy got the main event or not, he was the main event in some ways. But we'll get to that, I guess. Anyways, this match ended in disqualification, pretty much like WrestleMania 8. And Money Inc. kept their titles. So this was a good match. Very interesting to see Jimmy Hart turn his back on Money Incorporated, just like he did with the Natural Disasters. This pretty much, it is what it is. Then we get Lex Luger, who defeated Mr. Perfect. I saw the promo 2 years ago. 2 years ago when they had. No, it was actually last year when they had highlights of the shows that were going to be at WrestleMania 32, and that was WrestleMania 9, and it was a promo they had with Mr. Perfect, and Mr. Perfect flipped a line, and then he's like, oh no, he covered it up, you know, oh, I'm just excited, and whatever. Kurt Hennig was always entertaining that way, and always fun, and then we get the narcissist Lex Luger that made his debut at the Royal Rumble, and funny thing, you know, WrestleMania 8, I was watching it with a friend of mine, noticed that there was an interview with Lex Luger with Gorilla and Bobby Heenan, or Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, and I don't remember that, but I do remember Bobby Heenan talking about bringing Lex Luger into the WWF, or the Narcissist, or whatever. I think it was the Narcissist. I had no idea who it was. Anyways, Lex Luger won. This would tie into next year WrestleMania 10. But once again, I'll get into that tomorrow. Then we had The Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez. Giant Gonzalez with Harvey Wippleman, and Undertaker with Paul Bearer, obviously. You know, this match is not mentioned, I think, in The Undertaker streak. Or maybe it is, I'm not sure. Because Undertaker went 21-1, and that doesn't make any sense, but I think it's because of this match, because it ended in disqualification. It ended very badly because of the whole thing where Giant Gonzalez puts medicine or whatever in a glove, or chloroform, and knocks The Undertaker out. So it ended in disqualification. So this match, of course, probably isn't mentioned in the streak of The Undertaker, which is fine by me. This was a match. Then we get to the main event. And Bret the Hitman Hart, the WWF champion, my man, versus Yokozuna. This match was interesting. And yeah. You know, Yokozuna won the 1992 WWF Royal Rumble, earning him the right to face Bret Hart. So I figured that, you know, there could be a chance that he would beat my favorite wrestler at WrestleMania 9. And so it was. What happened was Mr. Fuji, Bret Hart somehow slapped the sharpshooter on Yokozuna. And, yeah, that was pretty cool. Although Yokozuna won the match by Mr. Fuji throwing the Fuji salt, or Fuji dust, if you will, on Bret Hart's eyes, causing him to fall, causing Yokozuna to get the win. And that was it. That was WrestleMania. Okay, I guess I'll talk to you later. Bye. What? Do you really want me to mention that? You really want me to mention the travesty that happened that night? At the end of the match? Okay, let's talk about it. So Bret Hart lost the WWF title. Yokozuna is the new champion, or so we think. See, Bret Hart leaves the ring, and guess who sticks his nose in where it doesn't belong? Hulk Hogan comes out and stares down Yokozuna, saying he wants a shot. He looks at Bret Hart. Bret Hart, of course, is pissed off, but whatever. He says, okay, get in there and face him. So let's start a match, another main event that isn't fucking necessary, but let's start one anyways. So, they have the match. Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna for the WWF title. Big boot, leg drop. New WWF champion Hulk Hogan. Once again, the spotlight is on the man who wasn't even on the main event bill. So, Hulk Hogan retired in 1992 WrestleMania, only to come back, not only to be in a take team match and lose, but to stick his nose in the main event where it doesn't belong To what? To have him lose to Yokozuna in the new pay-per-view of that year, the King of the Ring? I mean, granted, Bret Hart became a King of the Ring in 1993, but fuck it. Bret Hart should have kept the title if that were the case. Bret Hart could have kept the title. Or better yet, let's have Bret Hart lose the title to Yokozuna. And if Hulk Hogan has an issue with that, well, how about he issues a challenge to Yokozuna at King of the Ring? But, nah, that's so fucking simple. No, Hulk Hogan has to get into the ring and he has to pin Yokozuna to become the WWF champion. Fucking travesty. And you know why? Because if Triple H did that, which to my knowledge he kind of sorta did that with Sting, when Sting should have won. If Triple H did what Hulk Hogan did at WrestleMania 9, there'd be a lot of backlash. Of course, back then, yeah, internet really didn't exist. So, there really can't be any backlash, but you see, there should have been a boycott. Because, you know, if you're going to fucking retire, and then you come back, and you do a match, leave the main event the way it fucking is. No, not Hulk Hogan. I'm glad that he got the Bonsai Splash and King of the Ring. That serves him the fucking right. As much as I love Bret Hart back then, fair is fair. He lost the title that year, but he did eventually win it back. That'll be the next year. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Anyways, that was WrestleMania 9, Caesar's Palace, of course. This was the debut of Jim Ross for WrestleMania commentary. JR had to wear the robe. It was interesting. It was very embarrassing for him, apparently, but that's kind of the way it is, you know. He was a WCW commentator, and he came to the WWF, and that's what he had to do. Embarrassing or not, that's just the way it is. But you still had Gorilla, you still had Bobby Heenan, Randy Macho Man Savage was in commentary for this one. But yeah, this was a good WrestleMania, again, despite the fucking sloppy ending. That's just my opinion. Who gives a shit? Anyways, talk to you tomorrow. Bye.